Okay, I guess we'll call this meeting to order. Jen, will you do roll call, please?
Mike Dolson, Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jennifer Finley,
Here.
Jim Molitor,
Here.
Carol Langford, Danielle Matt, Bing Matt, James Steele Jr.,
Una.
Martin Charlo,
Present.
Len Tooties,
Thank you, Jen. We'll start today off with a prayer. Carol, I'm going to kind of go rotate around here. I think Len was the last one. Carol, would you do us the honor? Thank you.
Creator, today we just give you thanks for the sunshine and beautiful fall. We just ask you to watch over us as we take care of issues of our membership. We also ask for prayer for Delora Liberty and her family, she passed on. And we also ask for prayers for Simone Joseph and her family, and just pray for them at this time. And I'm sure there's others that I'm not remembering, but we just ask you to watch over those families and give them the strength to carry on. And we ask for a prayer for our kids who are in school today and keep them safe, and also our elders. And we just ask you to watch over us. Komiete.
Thank you, Carol. All right, first order of business, be looking at the tribal council minutes from September 17th. Abby, I just have one correction or clarification on the Martin's update on the Montana Conservation Commission and Flathead Basin. The end where blue-green algae is toxic and kills pets and plants. You change pets and plants to animals and humans. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve September 17th, 2024 minutes with corrections.
Thank you, James. Motion by James to approve the council minutes of September 17th with corrections.
Second.
Second by Martin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. 6-4, 2 abstentions, Jimmy and Bing abstaining. Okay, we have today's agenda. You have any additions to the agenda or changes? Go ahead, Jen. One walk-in. Any other additions to the agenda? Jennifer? One item?
Mr. Chair, I would like to give an update later, please.
Okay, we'll go James and Martin. Len? Okay. Any other additions? Okay, I'll scratch it. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve today's agenda with additions. Motion by Len. Second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous? Okay, let's take our, well, let's see, who's the walk-in? Oh, you, okay. Oh, you. Okay, Patty, we'll take you first. Executive, we're moving into executive. And then if anybody else has executive.
And now that You should be able to go ahead, Martin. Snake River.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and council. Yeah, I got a report from Tom Wolf, who's the state aquatic invasive species representative, and yeah, there had been mussels found in the Snake River at Twin Falls last year or around that area, and they had done a big treatment and basically killed everything in the river, and obviously that didn't work. They've been found again, multiple sizes and classes. So yeah, they're in the Columbia watershed now. So we got to really step up our efforts to protect our watershed, I think. So I'll send out that email to council today and to whoever else. So thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Glenn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. I'll just be brief here. I would like to get an update on where we at with the purchase of the Foster Funeral Home business. I'd like to see what the plan is and timeframes on when we could get that accomplished. I just think that is something that's vital for us that we need to acquire, because we all know the consequences if we do not get this business here. And also, in addition to that, Mr. Chairman, I just want to quickly acknowledge an employee. Today's her last day here at work. She's been working for us for nearly 29 years. That's Sylvia Amesback. Sylvia has dedicated most of her life there across the street at the store. She's assisted with hundreds, if not thousands, of families with the work that she's done over there. I think she's left a real positive legacy over there. And I just wanted to just quickly acknowledge her. And hopefully I'll also like to maybe acknowledge her at the quarterly meeting too. It's sad to see employees like her leave, but I hope she enjoys her retirement. I know she's worked hard all of her life, and but yeah, I just wanted to quickly bring that up. So thank you.
Thank you. Lynn? Carol?
Could I acknowledge one other person besides Sylvia?
Go ahead.
Chloanne Westerman's last day is today. I think she has 33 years in.
Thank you, Carol. That's it?
Mr. Chair, I forgot to bring this up. As you all know, we were invited by the Glacier National Park Conservancy for a field trip on October 17th. And they want to have a field trip up to Logan Pass and back in the red buses. And they want to provide a dinner for us that evening. And they'll also, if anybody wants to stay, you can get a motel room there at the same facility we're having the dinner at. But they want to know a head count. And they have an option for, depending on the weather, the bus ride could be in the afternoon on the 17th, that Thursday, or Friday morning. And I mentioned, well, the best time is in the afternoon because the clouds lift and it's warmer. So my preferable time frame would be to do the going to Sun Highway in the afternoon on October 17th. But I think Jen was holding that day just for that trip up there, but they need a head count. So Jen needs to be able to give them a head count of who's all going to participate. And if you want to spend the night. So the breaks, well, it's kind of like Fred Flintstone thing. There's holes in the floor and you put your feet down. Look at that.
James?
You know what they've done with those buses is Ford Motor Company took them and completely took them off the frame and redone the whole drivetrain. Everything is like modern underneath. So I watched a video on that, so I know.
So they have brakes.
They have brakes. They're not 1939 era brakes, but I'll go, put me down.
No. I don't know about the motel, but they need to know a motel.
I'll stay at the motel, and it's nice. It's a nice place. I've stayed up there. No, it's in Columbia Falls, yeah.
So Carol, you going and staying the night? Bing? Going and staying the night? James is going and staying the night? Tom, you're
I'm
going?
going, but I'm not staying the night.
I'm gonna go and think about staying the night. Jimmy, going and staying the night? Jennifer?
I'd like to go, but not spend the night.
Not going? And Martin? You going on the glacier trip? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jen. And then, the one little report I have is I was late because I went to a special Forest Advisory Committee meeting this morning, and the question basically was we've been meeting for 4, 5 years now in the Forest Advisory Committee, and nothing seems to have changed. Basically, we have small loggers and woodcutters who are saying that, you know, it's as hard to get in the woods as it was when we started this committee. And so they really want to come back to council and voice their opinion about, you know, especially the NEPA process really slows things down. I didn't know that the little project across here at the school took 2 years because a grizzly bear might walk across that place. It took 2 years to get that okay through the NEPA process to do a day's job. One of the woodcutters talked about asking to get a permit, I think up Boulder area, and he was put off for a year and a half through the NEPA process, only to be told no. And so that means he has to go through another one with another request on a permit. And how can you run a business if you can't get work in a year and a half waiting, and you wait for it knowing that it should happen and it comes down no. And so they're really asking us to revisit the whole process and how permitting and licensing for logging and wood cutting happens, especially the NEPA process. So we'll probably see something coming to council soon about that. But when our small contractors can't get the work, they can't afford their equipment. They can't afford the equipment, they go out of business. They go out of business, the wood shut down. And we end up where we're at, wondering if there's even gonna be a mill in the area that'll take wood in the future. And so that was the discussion this morning, especially centered around the NEPA process and how NEPA process is taking a year and a half when it used to take a month and a half maybe. And so it's something that we need to look at. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jennifer just sent me a note that the Native Fish Keepers Incorporated board has had a vacancy for 3 years, and we finally have a live one. That's we got them on the hook. We want to reel them in, put them on that board. So Evan Smith has applied for that board. So if council would like to adopt him as a board member, I would make that motion. Put Evan Smith on the Native Fish Keepers board.
Fish Keepers.
Second by Carol.
Motion by Tom to install Evan on the Fish Keepers board. Second by Carol. All in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for you, Evan is actually a fisheries biologist, so it's good to have him there. He does his work that he does. In regard to your comments on the forestry stuff, typically what you do and what we don't do is you do you lump that kind of activity together in one plan and you adopt that, and that takes care of the NEP. You do the NEP on that large plan, and don't do these individual project after project, that'll kill you. And there's no getting out of federal responsibilities of threatening endangered species and that kind of stuff. So it's how you manage it. And so when you talk to like state lands or the private timber lands, they'll do one kind of comprehensive plan, get the NEPA done on that, and then it just rolls. And you're not held up with that kind of stuff. So that's what I always would advocate for.
They actually have been asking for that, and our biologists are hesitating to do that. Thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that too, Mike. And, you know, it just, they get these processes started on these NEPA plans and stuff, but next thing you know, it sits on a person's desk wherever. You know, I know preservation had that for a lot of these for quite a while, just sitting there, not doing nothing with it. You know, and then you get them back over here across the street where sit there a bit longer, you know, so, it is tough to get these, NEPA, plans, done. You know, especially, like you said, Mike, the loggers are waiting, woodcutters are waiting, they're just to get out there to go to work, you know, I mean, they can do it when they don't have this approved for these guys to go in there to do their work.
Not only are they waiting for project by project, Tom, but I've been told that they're actually waiting until the project is actually described down to the brass tacks before they'll actually go do an analysis.
Yeah, the difficult thing is that when you're talking about threatened endangered species, you're at the complete mercy of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And they'll allow you to provide your own biological assessment on any particular impact to that threatened endangered species that might frequent or live on that piece of land. But it's up to them to accept your analysis or not. And so I think with our irrigation project rebuild, we've provided some money to actually hire someone under the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to be stationed with us. So that could expedite certain things. It might help with forestry also. I don't know, but that is a really good idea. Because we didn't want to get held up the same way doing the betterment project of the irrigation system.
Go ahead, Carol.
So accepting that analysis, what does that mean? Does that mean that you're just going with what they're recommending?
Well, you have to try to, usually all of our stuff goes through Creston. That's where, at least for fisheries, aquatic stuff, and it depends on, you know, where those folks are, but typically it's been U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service office out of Creston. You have to get in that person's head really to understand what they think is an impact and whatever minute detail that they may be asking for. Sometimes you do a call, they're doing these they're just overwhelmed. And so you try to troubleshoot it to think of what that biologist might think of as a critical issue for their analysis to say there's no effect, or you're mitigating the issue correctly. So that's where you get into it. We don't have the authority to approve that. Only the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service does. So it's always their discretion. So it's up to that individual, one individual typically. And the more they're trained, the more they know about your landscape, the better off you are. The more they know about stuff is really important. So if they have new staff, they don't know anything, they may ask for more detail. But that's just the way the federal law operates.
That actually is probably the biggest argument we had on Progress Act rules, is whether tribes could take on final authority for an NEPA process. Under Title V, it's allowed. And we argued that it should be allowed under Title IV as well, and they would not accept that. It was crazy. So, but yeah, anything else before we hit our agenda? Does anybody need a break? Or should we just get on it? Break? Break for 5 minutes, and then we'll invite John up. Well, I was reminded that we've been negligent in our duty to some of our council folks, that we missed wishing Bing a happy birthday on July 23rd, and Tom's birthday was just the other day. So we want to sing happy birthday to Tom and Bing right now. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Bing and Tom. Happy birthday to you. And there will be cake.
All right.
Really? There you go.
Come on up, John.
Yeah.
Welcome. I don't know that.
Go get that.
Morning. Welcome.
Talk.
Yeah.
There you go. My name is Anna Whiting Sorrell, and I have been, asked to join, Mr. Rupke this morning. I have had the great opportunity, in the past year, maybe a little bit shorter, to really understand, John's commitment to running for state auditor. Now, most people don't know what the state auditor does, but he really oversees a lot of around insurance. And you all know my passion for healthcare. And we really truly need a champion to really look at healthcare and ensure that our people get coverage. And I'm not here to talk about that, but maybe someday you want me to come talk about COVID. And so when he asked if I would come and introduce him, I'm honored to do so. You know, Mr. Rupke has a background in finance, and decided on the last day that to file in March for this office. And there were cheers that we had a very, very, very viable candidate. It's an office that doesn't get a lot of publicity, but it is one that is so essential for who we are and what we need in the state. And I know, Tom, you'll care about this. He's a member, the state auditor is a member of the land board. And that land board has a lot of impact on what happens in the state. So with that, John, I'm going to throw it to you, and I'll turn off and
I'll turn on. Well, thank you, Anna. Mr. Chairman and Council, I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you. I was here 2 years ago. I don't know if some of you may remember, I was running for Public Service Commission. And Lake County was in my district, and I campaigned hard. I unfortunately didn't win that race. But I'm back running for state auditor because this position also fits my background. I had a 40-year career in business finance. In most states, in 39 states, the equivalent position of state auditor, the commissioner of insurance, is an appointed nonpartisan position, and it's appointed based on having certain experience, knowledge, skills to regulate the companies that are providing insurance in the state. Here in Montana, we don't have any requirements to run for state auditor. And as Anna said, on the last day, I realized that there wasn't a candidate running on as a Democrat, and I couldn't tolerate the idea of the Republican running unopposed, especially given who he is. So I threw my hat in the ring, and I've been going hard at it since. I've got Marcy here driving me all over the state. I live in Whitefish, which is not a great place to run a statewide campaign from because everything is a long ways away. But I'm working hard at getting elected. My career was in business finance. I moved to Montana about a dozen years ago. I worked for a timber products company as chief financial officer, a timber products company in Columbia Falls for about 4 years. And I've also spent time supporting local economic development efforts. I taught classes at Flathead Valley Community College, and then got a phone call from Janet Camel, and she asked me to come down to
um, come down here and teach classes. So I taught several classes right over in the building over there and also in Elmo, and then taught similar classes out of Lake County Community Development Corporation in Ronan. So, I'm committed to giving back to my community. I was a board member of Glacier Park Conservancy. I heard you talk about the invite from them, and I was on that board for several years. Shortly after I moved to Montana, I restarted the Flathead chapter of Wild Montana, Montana Wilderness Association at the time, now called Wild Montana. So I feel like I have the background and experience to do this job. And there's a couple of very critical things on the agenda. The job of the state auditor, if you look at the Montana code, it says the job is to protect Montana insurance consumers. So we need to have somebody in that office that cares about protecting Montana insurance consumers, not using the office to run for another office, not using the office to, enjoy the graft of the lobbyists from the insurance companies. And I'm running just to do the job. I'm committed to it 100%, and I will not run for another office when I'm in there. Because there's just too many important things to work on. The first thing that's really high priority is working and advocating as hard as using the office to advocate for the repeal of the sunset of Medicaid expansion. And when I travel around the state, I run into so many people who have, they no longer can see it takes them 2 hours to get to the nursing home that their grandmother is now in because the nursing home is closed in their community. And if we lose coverage, medical coverage for people, we're going to see not only nursing homes closed down, but hospitals, all sorts of healthcare facilities are going to, they just can't survive if they can't get paid. And people continue to get sick and they continue to get injured, and they're going to need medical care whether they're covered or not. So we need to, Medicaid expansion is, the federal government pays 90% of it right now. There's no reason why we shouldn't do that. And, I talked to Anna when we came out for the powwow down in Arlee, and when I see the little children come out and do their march, their entrance, I'm a grandfather of 3, and I just can't stand the thought of little kids not having access to the medical care they need so that they can get a start in their life that's, not a step behind everybody else. So I will work very hard to do that. For those people that don't qualify for Medicaid, we have to find some creative solutions and make sure everyone has access to affordable, quality medical care, medical insurance, so they can get the medical care they need. The other big issue is homeowners insurance and the spike in homeowner insurance rates. I mean, I hear across the state people, if I hear someone say their insurance went up 20%, that's nothing. I mean, most people are seeing 30, 40, 50% increases in their homeowners insurance, and that's if you can get it. I mean, there's been a lot of cancellations, a lot of denials of coverage, and we have to find solutions, because you can't get a mortgage if you don't have insurance. You can't hang on to your home if you don't have insurance. You can't probably sell your home if it's not insurable. So, other states have done some creative things. I mean, there's state programs that provide insurance of last resort, that type of thing. And so we're gonna have to look at doing something like that. I was at the insurance summit in Butte a couple weeks ago, and this was the #1 topic. Was they used the professionals that were presenting used terms like the homeowners market here in Montana is in chaos. It's in decline. It's out of control. So, and a lot of this is driven by the catastrophic climate events that we're not only seeing here in Montana, but we're seeing across the country, and that's affecting the insurers that provide insurance here in Montana. There's an effort underway at the national level, even though the National Insurance Office doesn't have regulatory authority. They coordinated an effort pulling together, inviting all 50 state regulators to provide data on, claims or insurance losses on a zip code by zip code or even more granular level than that, to try to get the link to how these climate events are affecting the insurance industry. And there were only a few states that declined to participate in that. And you might not be surprised to know that Montana was one of them. So, if you can't talk about climate change and if you can't deal with the what we're seeing, I mean, my kids live in Missoula. They got hit hard by that windstorm, and we all know about the wildfires and the hailstorms and the floods that have hit this state. If you can't talk about the impacts of climate change and you're not willing to sit at the table and deal with the information that's being gathered, then you're not going to be able to solve the problem. So a friend of mine said, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So, and I think that's true. So those are some of the big issues. The other issue that's clearly important is the seat on the land board. And, we have there are 5 offices that have seats on the land board. State auditor is one of them. Currently, I think if you look at the makeup of the land board, you won't find many people that really care about access and long-term conservation. And, our land is the most important enduring treasure in the treasure state, and we need to make sure it's properly managed, and we need to make sure that people who do lease it and use it, are held accountable if they don't treat the land properly and sustainably. At the same time, we do need to lease those lands out because the revenue that's generated from those state lands is used to fund our K-12 education. And again, as a grandfather, it's education and healthcare that we need to make sure our kids get, and that's so that they can have a chance at leading the life they want to lead. So I will talk just briefly about my opponent. My opponent is currently on the Public Service Commission. He's in his fundraising letters, he tries to, because I'm a Democrat, link me to Biden's inflation, and yet he approved a 24% rate increase. Doesn't affect people here directly, but certainly if you have any friends and family in Missoula, they got hit with a 24% rate increase in their electric service from Northwestern. That's pretty inflationary. And of course, if you tack on property taxes and property insurance, all things that are within the scope of the current Republicans holding those offices, that there's a lot of inflation being driven by them. He also claims in his fundraising letter that I've spent the majority of my time since I moved to Montana attacking private business. That's just patently false. I've worked in private business, and I've worked, as I said, I've taught these business classes throughout Northwest Montana. But he's a guy who is a lifelong politician. He has a job since he was elected to the Public Service Commission. He has run for 2 offices, Supreme Court and now state auditor. So he is spending most of his time running for another office while he is getting paid by the taxpayers to do a job. And he's a lobbyist for 2 organizations and also conducts his own private law practice. So not somebody that we need in a position that's going to advocate for consumers and find solutions to the issues that we're facing. So yeah, I could go on with more, but I'll leave it at that. I have a website. I'll pass out my cards at the end of this. If you could look at that. I've had some very nice letters written on my behalf. They're posted on the website from people across the state. People like Bob Brown, who was a Republican. Deborah Bonagofsky, who was a Republican out of Billings, who ran for office and was attacked in the primaries by a dark money group that my opponent was legal counsel for. So yeah, and you'll see other things out there and more information about me, but I will leave it at that. Are there any questions that anyone has?
Go ahead, Tom, and James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. John, I want to thank you so much for putting your name in the hat. I mean, my goodness, you're perfect for this position and you're right on top of all the topics. I couldn't agree with you more on everything you've said. So I want to thank you sincerely for putting your name on the ballot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for applying and running. I think it's pretty, I just remember when the Republican Party took over the PSC and they couldn't figure out who the chairman was for what, 2, 3 months, 6 months. They were fighting over who the chairman of the PSC was going to be. I mean, if that didn't give a good indication of one party dominance of the Public Service Commission, then I don't know what does. But you know, I've watched that your opponent, you know, from the sidelines, and it, you know, you really, I never got the sense from him running that it ever was about Montanans or the average citizen. It was about him. That's just the way he campaigns. He comes across that way. And, you know, I sure appreciate you putting your name forward. You know, I was just reading about Northwestern Energy just last night or night before, their proposal for $193 million to tack on top of the Montana ratepayers for Northwestern Energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unconscionable. But, you know, and from the article that I was reading, it really isn't for infrastructure or anything else, but the shareholders.
Well, it's shareholders and I would say executive compensation. And this, when I was running, I made a point of trying to communicate that the top 6 people at Northwestern make a combined $9 million a year. I mean, you just can't put a 24% rate increase with more to come, as you just mentioned, on people who are struggling to stay in their homes.
Yeah.
When that's happening. And yeah, it's unfortunately the model is not good because they're more concerned about their shareholders than their customers. And
Yeah.
and I lost to a candidate who is a culture warrior who tried to introduce, I mean, part of her campaign was repealing the water compact here, which
Yeah.
the PSC has no authority over, but they stoke these hatreds and biases unnecessarily. And that's also part of the reason why I'm running is I'm tired of seeing people with agendas that are, well, I guess I call them culture warriors taking seats in our state government that don't do the job effectively.
Commissioner, yeah, I think the broader thing is to see folks like Governor, gosh, my name went blank, Mark Roscoe, you know, come out and say he's not supporting Trump.
Right.
You have people like Dick Cheney. I had to shake the man's hand once up in Whitefish on a campaign thing when Bush was president.
Yeah.
Don't agree with him or his daughter on 99% of everything, but they're even, you know, not supporting the Republican nominee for president. And so You know, it's unfathomable to think back to the days of George W. Bush and Richard Nixon and say, weren't those the good old days?
Yeah,
As
exactly.
compared to the modern current nominee of the Republican Party, it is not it's not a party anymore, to be honest. It's just, in my opinion, a cult. It's a cult. I mean,
Well-
there's no, I mean, anybody that has in the party that has a sensibility of abiding by the Constitution, they get run out of the party, they get run out of Congress, they get lambasted, like you had mentioned, the lady that was running, the person that was running and got blasted out of there you know, for whatever reason, because they weren't in line with that. And so, I appreciate running. The other thing that Tom had mentioned, one thing that we have to deal with on the Lake County ballot is oftentimes our local ballot is the Republican primary. That's the general election
Right.
for a lot of local races, if you live in Lake County, because there are no Democrats running for commissioner on down. But you'll have the legislature and, you know, the statewide races and of course presidential and such. But our local races, you don't have any. The de facto general election is oftentimes a June primary in a lot of
Well,
Lake County and such. So giving us an option is, I appreciate you running and I definitely want you to win.
well, thank you. I live in Flathead County, so I know what you mean. And prior to running, I was volunteering with the Montanans for Election Reform on those ballot initiatives, 126 and 127. And I encourage you to look into those. I think those are a step in the right direction to take the extremism out of our politics. And that's an example of I don't know if you've met Frank Garner, but Frank was the former chief of police of Kalispell, and he was a Republican legislator, but Frank's a really good guy. And he's one of these Republicans who probably soon to get kicked out of the Republican Party like Mark Roscoe did. But he, you know, there are some good people out there still, but when the way the primary system works, it favors the extreme. And unfortunately, as you said, if you come out of the primary in a lot of these counties, you're going to just continue, you're just going to win the general.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. Mr. Repke, thank you for taking the time to visit with us this morning. It's always appreciated to see somebody that's running for a prestigious office to come visit with the council. So thank you for that. Mr. Repke, I've been reading some articles in regard to the homeowners insurance industry, and what was really interesting was this past year, they did risk assessments on properties here throughout Montana, okay? And they rated these properties from a 1 to 6, okay? Those properties that rated as a 5 and a 6, they're not going to renew their policies, okay? So now you are at the mercy of your mortgage company on whatever insurance.
Exactly, right.
Yes. I just wanted to bring this to your attention because that's going to have a huge impact on a lot of the homeowners in our valley here. You know, that in some cases that can triple their mortgage payments. That was really concerning to me. So I really thought it was coincidence that you showed up today and that you're running for that office. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's going to be coming up here in the next 2, 3, 4 years. That's going to start having an impact on us here locally.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the type of thing that the state auditor will be at the focal point of to try to solve that. I mean, I remember when my late wife and I bought our first home in Gillette, Wyoming, and you know, the property tax and the property insurance was kind of an afterthought. I mean, if you could meet the mortgage payment, you could, you know, the others were not that big of a deal. But now, between the property tax and property insurance, it's it's, you know, you can get squeezed out of your home. And I know exactly what you're talking about. The mortgage company is going to make sure you have insurance. If you can't find it, they'll find something, and it's going to be extremely expensive. So we do need to get ahead of that problem. There are a couple of things. One is, you know, mitigation efforts to make the homes to lower their fire rating by, you know, changing the landscaping around the home and that, or the roof or something like that. But that's, you know, that costs a lot of money. And we need to look at ways to provide grants or some other.
Well,
you know,
I do know that our Division of Fire does wild urban interface thinning projects here.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Throughout.
Yeah.
And so when I reached out to my insurance company and asked them if I were to participate in that, if that was gonna have any impact on my insurance, and I said no. And I even asked about the miles that the nearest fire department is from your residence.
Right.
And so they're not even taking that into consideration. So it's just kind of crazy.
Well,
how
those
the-
are things that we have to require the insurance companies to take into consideration. If your property has been, you know, the risk has been mitigated through thinning or whatever it is, that insurance companies need to recognize that. But at some point, if the companies providing insurance in the state don't, you know, want to insure these homes, and there's a lot of homes in Montana that
Well,
are
it
in
just
that,
seems like-
in that interface, right?
Yeah.
And there's homes in places like Denton that burned to the ground with a grass fire. So, if the insurance companies aren't going to insure that, we have to find other solutions. And there are other states have put together programs that, you know, give the homeowners an option to get homeowners insurance. And yeah, we have to look at that. It's just for almost everybody, your home is your biggest investment, and it needs to be insured not only for the protection of the mortgage company, but for your own protection of your own, you know,
And
asset.
An
And
interesting piece of information that was also in that was when a state of emergency is declared, it's supposed to people or agencies have access to federal funds, right?
yeah,
Apparently, it's not federal funds. These are funds that are paid for by the insurance companies. So that's why insurance rates go up. But anyway, I just wanted to bring this issue to your attention, and once again, thank you for taking the time to visit with us.
sure. Thank you.
Well, thank you, John.
Well,
And
thank you
good
for
luck
having
in
me.
Your candidacy.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll walk around and pass out cards real quick.
And thank you, Anna.
Sure.
Oh, This is what he's saying. You want me to give that to him? His corporation. So nice.
Fine. Thank you.
The animals. Take a photo outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
John? Lisa? I see Dan's online.
Morning, Mr. Chairman.
Morning.
Morning, everyone else, and happy birthday, Bing and Tom.
Thank you, Dan.
Good morning. Today we're here to, look for, we're requesting approval on task order 127, which is, I'm going to start with 127. It's to tear off the Bison Range Bioshop roof. It is in real dire need. It's about ready to fall in. The building is an excellent building. They use it. It is fairly old though. And so we're gonna tear the roof off and replace it. Just do a one, instead of a Dutch hip roof, we're just gonna do straight rafters and replace all the lighting and the electrical within the ceiling. And also on that task order is the Blue Bay dock. From the previous crib, which we built around and tried to save it, during that high winds, we lost a few of the logs and we have to get them out of there. Otherwise, they're just crashing up against and tearing the rest of the crib apart. So we need to remove them. And the Ronan forestry, which is also damaged by the wind that they had their lean-to blew over the fence, tore the fence out. So we are removing the remaining part of the fence and replacing it all on the west side. And that task order comes to the total of $392,596. And we're just looking for approval for that. Go ahead, Tom.
Just one question, then I'll make the motion. Are they, the wind events, both the lean-to shed that blew over in Spring Creek there and the logs coming loose at Blue Bay, does our insurance cover that? Because then we were just talking about insurance just a few moments ago.
I think we have a $25,000 deductible. So we haven't hit that yet.
Oh, okay.
It was each one of those.
Yeah, lean-to is not that expensive, I guess.
No. Well, the fence part isn't.
No.
They haven't asked for.
Replacement of the lean-to?
No, they don't know what they're really.
I remember when they built that, but yeah.
How long ago was that?
Oh, it was shortly after we built the one out here.
Is
The
it?
big ones out here.
Mhm.
We built NRD. And
Okay.
they punched that one in there, but I thought it was kind of, well, I won't go into the details of their construction methods, but I'll make the motion to approve task order 127.
A motion from Tom for task order 127, second by Jimmy. Any other thoughts? All in favor? Len? Cool. Unanimous?
And now, the next one was a modification on task order 114. We are gonna pull that one out because that has been completed. And I would like, in place of it,
ask for a modification on task order 31B. And this is just a period of performance, which is time. There's no more money involved. Task order 31B is for the drains in the stick game pavilion at the Elmo Powwow grounds. It was part of the engineering to get the water to run in the right direction. And this is just to finish up for it. The drains are en route as we speak, and we just need more time so before the task order runs out on the 30th. So we're looking for a modification for 31B to the end of September.
Mr. Chair, I'd make the motion to do modification 31B for the installation of the drains of the stick game pavilion at Elmo.
Motion by Tom. Second by Jimmy. All in favor? We're unanimous.
That's
you,
it
John.
for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Lisa.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Jennifer, come on up. Good morning. And welcome. It's the button by the talk.
The one that says talk.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Douglas. I know y'all have seen me in a couple of different capacities here. Today I'm coming to you from Mission West Community Development Partners in response to the Ronan Pilot Tourism Grant. So I wanted to come by once a month or so and just kind of give you guys a little update on what we're doing. To keep you informed and to keep you interested in what we're doing down in Ronan. So we have a steering committee put together of some of the wonderful members here, also lots of local business members and people that did the Ronan Revitalization Downtown Master Plan. And we put them together and created a steering committee to work through this $2.75 million grant that Ronan received. So the main things that we're focusing on is economic vitality, which is going to be kind of, building up downtown as far as getting rid of the blight, looking at brownfields, all that kind of stuff to provide a sustainable downtown area. The second thing we're looking at is the beautification of downtown. So a lot of that is going to be facade grants, looking at a type of a branding. So what we're doing is I'm sending out a request for proposals for a branding firm. And if there's any type of branding or anything design that you guys think would be appropriate, please send it my way. I'd love to have any ideas that you guys have. And then the third thing is going to be transportation and walkability, which is a very big thing there. Just last night, I was at the city council meeting and they were talking about the trees that are on the sidewalks that are buckling up the sidewalk and that kind of thing. So we're trying to work with the city of Ronan to make sure that we're not duplicating projects. That's not going to do us any good if we plant new trees and then they tear up the sidewalk. So we're making sure that the things that Ronan, the city, is doing, we're partnering with them to make sure that we're getting them the funding and everything that they need to be able to complete those projects. And this is a 5-year project. We are looking to make things, we're looking broader. We're looking at 30 years. Yes, we're going to have funding for 5, but it's our responsibility to get grants and stuff to keep that funding flowing to be able to help new businesses come into town and be able to get upgrades to code and everything for them. Another thing about the transportation and walkability is focusing on alternative transportation. So whether that's electric vehicles, we've talked about maybe electric scooter type program like they have in Spokane and other areas where you log in your app and you stick a quarter in and you're off and running to the races. And we want to try to connect the fairgrounds, the schools, the walking path, and just have a continuous flow through the city. If there's anything that you guys are looking for in particular with this grant or whatnot, it is a tourism grant. So yes, we're looking for tourism, but when we did our economic study, there's 24,000 trips right there at 93 and Round Butte every day. Now, granted, a lot of those are going to be locals, whether from Polson, Missoula, traveling through. But if you think about it, once you take those 24,000 trips, if you take out 14,000 for people that are just traveling, through to get home, that's still 10,000 people, 10,000 cars, which may be occupied by a family. And we want to get them to turn down Main Street in Ronan and, see what we have to offer or what we will be offering. So we would, love your guys' input and support and everything. And we just want to make sure that we're doing what's right for the city and for Lake County and everywhere. And I hope to present to you guys once a month, or whatever you determine that you guys want updates. Right now, we're just in the planning phases. So for this whole first year, it's just planning and getting everything together. So this is where the council's input is really important, because then we can move forward with projects that are important to everyone. So if you guys have any questions,
Well, thank you,
Here,
Jennifer. I
Thank
see
you.
Martin has a question, then James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pablo is technically part of Ronan. Does this have
Correct.
anything, any
Yes.
studies up here as well?
Yes, so that's, and part of our so we have Ronan, the grant was given to Ronan. So part of the Department of Commerce's plan is to spin off into other communities. So speaking with Carol, Pablo is definitely one of those. I know you guys are working on a skate park. We would love to be able to, help with that as much as we can, even if it's just like I said, connecting walking trails and making passage for the kids and adults safe, street lights, that kind of stuff. And we do have to do a project in Sanders County and also in Mineral County as well. So, and that's part of the Department of Commerce's thing. It's not that they want us to revitalize Ronan or Pablo or whoever and be done. It's a plan to take what we do well and spin it off to be able to help other communities do the same thing.
James?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thank you for the report. I think one of the things that we struggle with in the tribes is part of us has an opinion, we don't want tourism at all, we don't want nobody coming
Right.
around, but unfortunately, because of the beauty of the area, you're gonna have tourism. We either work with it and try to adapt the best way for our local businesses and such in our community. So I think the big thing is as long as you're engaged with the tribes and hearing what our concerns are and at least taking that into consideration, some of our travel businesses and some of the
Absolutely.
things that we have, I think that's appreciated.
Of course.
And I think just on a personal level, you can see, some of the businesses on Main Street, a lot of the businesses are empty and such. So I think that's another issue, but I don't know that this grant would work with that, but.
It does in a kind of an offset
Okay.
way, because you're building capacity.
Mhm.
So, part of that economic vitality is bringing those jobs in to allow people to have a place to work.
As you are branching out in different communities, so
Mhm.
from St. Ignatius, so, have you at some point in your plans, an idea or thought to meet with the Mission City Council at some point, or?
Yes,
Okay.
once we get it past the planning phases and
Okay.
we get to the looking out for where we can do spinoffs, yes. In fact, I actually spoke with a business owner a couple of days ago who's looking to purchase a property downtown in Mission, and I'm not sure what they're looking to do with it. I know she had mentioned housing,
Yeah.
and that's a big thing in Ronan as well, as a lot of the buildings there have housing above, but that housing is not the best place, but it's a roof, you know, you can say it's four walls and a roof. But we want to take this particular grant and basically spread it across, you know, everywhere that we can to, you know, revitalize the area. And, you know, as far as with the businesses and everything being engaged, that's, you know, we want your input. We want to partner with the tribe. We want to make sure that we're doing what's responsible. And you brought up, you know, you guys brought up the tourism fact, and I completely understand that. We don't want to bring in more tourism. We're looking to just capture what's already coming through here. And, you know, that falls upon us as residents to make sure that we're saying, you know what, recreate responsibly. And that's, you know, something that's very difficult to get through. You know, I was listening to the gentleman here before and he was talking about the, you know, the grass fire and everything, and it just burnt down an entire house. Well, you know, we can say that was lightning or was that human caused? So it's just that recreating responsibly and thinking about the residents that live in the area when you're looking at expanding and growing tourism, because tourism does have a huge effect. And it's not always positive.
Tom? Oh, pardon. Carol and then Tom.
Yeah, I went and met with these ladies 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the following 2 weeks later, there's a meeting and I'm in Phoenix.
Yes.
So I felt so bad.
No, that's okay.
And it seems like I seem to hit and miss these revitalization meetings. I try to get online on
Yes, ma'am.
occasions, but it's just so difficult to try to meet all of these things. So
Yeah,
anyway, definitely I'm super interested and want to continue to participate and
thank you.
keep the council up to date on all the
Yeah.
things that are going on.
Well, we'd love for you to be there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And oh, I don't
Yes.
know if I let you know that Tom McDonald said that since he wasn't, he can probably say this himself, since he wasn't involved from the
Mm-hmm.
start, he wanted to not be included, so it would just be me.
Yes, ma'am. No problem.
But he also wanted to, be included, but he'll give advice in that
Right.
manner.
Yes, absolutely. And we have a few people that are on the steering committee that are just as consultants. Glacier Country is one of those that we use. So yeah, absolutely. We would love all of y'all. The more the merrier. Thank you.
Go ahead, consultant Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just gonna actually say what Carol just said. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate being invited to do it, and I was trying to get on this, a couple of years ago. But it is extremely difficult to make meetings
Oh
and
gosh, yes.
participate. And so, not being fully vetted into it, that's my problem. But I'd like to be in touch and as much as I can. But yeah,
Thank you.
don't expect me to be on your steering committee though.
That's
So, yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Advice is great.
Other questions for Jennifer? Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys. I look forward to seeing y'all again next month. Hopefully I'll have some better updates.
Look
All right.
forward
Thank
to
you,
that.
guys. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Mike, can we go into executive?
We will go out of regular into executive. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regard to the Charcusta News feature story that was picked up by the Associated Press in Montana and elsewhere, I believe that it's our tribal council obligation to support the information that was presented, if that's inappropriate language, positions, and racist and ignorant statements that were made by a political candidate running for senator of Montana, that we would express that dissatisfaction and in an editorial or press release, and I would make that a motion to that effect. And I'd make a secondary motion that we expedite our get out the vote registration to make people aware of their obligation to vote and make a statement on matters such as this. So that would be my motion and second motion. Or combine them together.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna try to restate Tom's motion, but we got a motion to to support our original statement out of the Charcusta and push hard at getting people registered to vote because it matters. Second by Jennifer. All in favor? We got unanimous. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I make a statement for the record. I personally endorse Senator John Tester for re-election.
Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, for the record, I just want to make sure that our people know that this governing body, this council, takes very seriously comments made by people who wish to represent us and referring to us as drunk Indians. And that is totally unacceptable for any leader or any person from this great state of Montana to have for their constituents, especially their longest constituents, the original inhabitants of this landscape. So I find it profoundly unacceptable. And I think it's our obligation. I appreciate the tribal council coming forward and supporting the other tribes, our Crow Nation, Rocky Mountain Leaders Council, National Congress of American Indians, and others that have called for an apology and to make sure that all voters are aware of this inappropriate behavior by this potential elected official. So thank you.
Carol?
I just received my receipt on Act Blue for 25, and I'm gonna up it to 100. So I challenge each and every one of you to make a contribution and continue to do so until the election day for Tester.
I guess I just have to say that in all the historical research I've done, and I'm sure all of our lawyers have done in terms of Indian law, that oftentimes the proponents of whatever actions were out there against tribes often made statements like these about Indians. And it has always come to hurt us in so many legal ways along the way. We can't stand for this. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd also like to make the motion to defend the integrity of our Charcusta News, that we would release all appropriate information to validate the story as it was running.
Motion by Tom. Second by Martin? Or, okay. You want to say something? Second by Martin. All in favor? Unanimous. Jennifer out of the room.
I do have one other thing.
Go ahead, Martin.
I don't know if we need council action or not to make our tribal IDs free for tribal members up until November 7th.
Motion by Martin, making IDs free up until November 2nd. Second by Tom, all in favor? Unanimous. Jennifer out of the room. To get a tribal ID, I hope so. Back into executive? Out of regular, back into executive.
Action item is to, sorry. No. The first action item is to approve a resolution to enter into a contract modification with Dow for water rights work.
Motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion by James. Second by Bing. All in favor? Unanimous.
Okay, thank you. And then the last action item, Mr. Chairman, is to enter into an MOU between the tribes and the Montana State Library
Tom was alleging to make that motion, I remember.
Yeah, I did. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Tom. Motion by Tom,
Second.
second by James. All in favor? Unanimous.
All right, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Chairman.
Were you doing the Indian Health Service contract?
Brian thought consent was, yeah,
Oh, he's gonna bring that
he's
back?
supposed to bring a resolution back down
Okay.
this afternoon. So I'll go check with him right now, just see the status of that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yes. We need to go back. Okay. I don't think he's on.
We got one request, to look at going to the 90th percentile. So,
Mr. Chair, I'd make the motion to do that and make it uniform across the tribal government organization.
second by Martin. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Great recruitment tool.
We'll go out of regular, back into executive. Yeah, I mean it this time. So we have, 10 items, it looks like to me. Is that what you're talking about?
I believe so. First item up, the Karsten contract to cover the 21 survey bill. I mean, the 24 survey bill of White Swan. To be able to get that paid for him before the close of,
Need a motion to get
FY24.
some surveyors paid. Motion by Tom. Second by Martin. All in favor? We're unanimous.
Show interest next one, in purchasing trust property in Polson, the 2 city lots with the home on it.
Motion by Tom to pursue Iris Kaya's property. Second by Bing. All in favor? Unanimous.
Letter of disinterest.
Dave Berlin. Letter of disinterest on the 2 little parcels.
The 2 lots.
Motion by James. Second by Tom. All in favor of disinterest? Unanimous.
Easement in the Blue Bay, Yellow Bay, the B Boulder 2000 road system for tribal and member spouse for purchasing of fee interest.
Mr. Chair, I would like to restrict this access right away.
Easement for just single residents?
One single resident.
One single residence, 25-year, 25 renewal.
Absolutely. Thank you, Holly. That's be my motion
At market?
at fair market.
At fair market. Motion, second by Martin. All in favor? Unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure council knows that that'll be a restriction on hunting that occurs up there. That where the build site is, there's no shooting or discharging a firearm within 150 yards of the house that Mr. Barber will end up being built. So that'll take some hunting area away from some people. Don't they just use rocks and stuff like that? Yeah.
Next item up is to show interest in purchasing the 17.5 acres of the Felsman's 2395B on the bordering the Bison Range.
You had talked about doing a clarification in the minutes.
Yeah,
Not just a
just-
clarification, you want an actual motion?
We'll just ask for a motion
Purchase?
for this one directly.
Okay. Motion Second by Jimmy. All in favor? Unanimous.
Next item up is, approval of the fall agricultural bid for the highest, best use.
Motion is accept the high bid, all bid. Motion by Bing. Second by Jimmy. All in favor? Unanimous.
Next item up for motion is a motion for approval to add Melanie Smith to the Blue Bay business lease of Steve DePuise.
Motion by Martin. Second by Tom. All in favor? Unanimous.
And next item up, letter of disinterest for the Chanette property up in Charlotte.
These folks want to move forward, guys. Motion by Martin. Second by Tom. All in favor of showing disinterest? 1, 2. Unanimous.
And the final one, glad I have somebody taking better notes than I did. Authorization to idle lease 2030 until the agricultural lease boundaries can get fenced accordingly due to the Elmo 2 fire.
Yes, Jane.
Do we, since they haven't been able to use the lease, do we prorate them back anything or?
We haven't charged him the lease payment for the last
Okay.
2 years due to that, with the hopes that we were gonna get the fence up and completed so he could start utilizing it again.
So to cancel the lease and idle it. Motion by James, second by Bing, all in favor? Unanimous. Go ahead, Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Say, Mark, I was talking to Sheila and she's kind of in the same predicament up there with the Whitworth property. She's had a lot of fence burned up there and she's unable to use that property too, either up there since that burned up. So I think she was gonna come in and talk to you about it to see if maybe she could extend her lease out further or, and let that, the grass grow back on it eventually and get the fences put up in there because she can't use it because there's no fence in there since the fire burned a lot of those posts out of there too. So I believe she's gonna come in and talk to you about it.
Yeah, she did come in, Monday. She ended up coming in Monday or Tuesday. We did get her voicemail last week on it. She did mention that she had talked with you about it. We actually had our crew out there Monday and Tuesday getting the one section of the fence completed that she was needing done. She is utilizing one of the sections of it right now. They are still up there working on some of the stuff. They got the majority of it, so she is able to utilize the north half of the property. So we got that going. We have some fence work that still have to be done around that state section where the Whitford animals had came in. So we're aware, and the crew has been out there this week getting that all upgraded to standard with the bare funds. With that, that's all we have unless council has anything.
Any questions for Mark or his crew? Thank you, Mark.
You ordered the toilets yet, Mark?
Working with Greg on that now because I know that Todd, just got an email from him last night, I think it was, that Todd had ordered some already. So I think he was kind of like, well, I'm working with Todd on this already with an outside entity. Is this the same thing? So I got to follow up with Greg on that one, just to let him know that, oh yeah, this, Todd was doing some, we're working with the same company. It's just best if we order bulk now, because it takes a
Absolutely.
while to build.
Yeah, make sure you get the right amount.
Yeah,
The other one was, putting in drinking water. Is that something that you're working on?
for the Arlie site right now, yes. We're working with housing on that. That's actually a big group project right now with SCAHA, ourselves, Powwow Grounds, to get it. I believe we have a meeting next week with SCAHA on a follow-up. Brett had done a lot of research on that, got an estimated cost of what tapping into the Chief Martin Charlo already double well that's there will have enough water capacity with a storage unit to supply Powwow Road, Powwow Grounds, Rodeo Grounds, and skate park, and the potential building site of, I believe, their triplexes housing was looking at right there between the skate park and the fire hall. So they're looking at that right now. We're coming up with a plan, trying to get that kickstarted sooner than later so we can move forward and hopefully have a full functioning water system by next year. We are working with Pablo Water and Sewer because this site has just started, but we're also working up there of trying to see how we can get a water system put into the Ronan. If we're going to be able to tap into the city, or if we could tap into where the clinic was put in, how can we tap into a water spigot there, frost-free?
Yeah, it seems pretty simple. You just tap into the
Just making sure that
building's
we have
water
a
line
line.
and run a line over there and put a frost free up.
Yeah,
you know?
that's all we're hoping for, is that we have a line to hook to.
Well, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, so we're working with those
But
sites right now. Brad has been doing a lot of that heavy lifting when it comes to the Pablo Water Sewer stuff, because he's also working with DHRD on some tiny home stuff to get hooked into the system and some other things. So he's been shuffling his priorities around too for.
so in regards to placement of the toilets, then can you develop a contract with somebody to dig the holes for those between now and December and obligate that too?
We can be doing the dirt work. We just need to know the specs from what the company will need.
Missoula Concrete.
Yep. From
And so you
Missoula
just leave a
Concrete.
hole there in the ground?
We'll dig a hole and everything when they're ready, so we don't have a big old void
Oh,
there.
you have your own crew that can dig the hole?
Yeah, my field crew, we
Has it?
have a mini excavator and
Okay.
everything, and we can do all that work.
Okay.
We do have an MOA with forestry if we have to go deeper with their big excavator. So we have, for the property management side of that, we do already have some preliminary plans, but we just need to know where the group after, next Friday's grand opening in Ronan. We have a identified site for Arlie where we'd like to see that vaulted toilet go in. When we worked with them there, now we're gonna work when they come up, we'll talk with them about the next phase of getting that put in. Where would it be a best location? Cause I do know that it was brought up once before about a playground equipment and stuff maybe going in there. Just kitty corner to the skate park also. They might have a playground set up there or something. I'm not quite sure about it. So I talked with Brad, where we can hopefully have a meeting on that property on future development sites. What's going on for a better master plan, because it's altered from the original master plan that was done years ago.
So as far as the conceptual site development plan map or whatever you want to call it, yeah, the original one's not even close. So, are you doing that with some kind of AutoCAD, or is that something like Nerd can do with their GIS shop to help you with that? or-
Right now, we are just looking at it with our cadastral and that, just getting the base map going, so then we can look with the, with hopefully with Marty and them to do it with AutoCAD, or, trying to see right now if there was already kind of a schematic plan of water and sewer lines or anything out there other than just for the clinic. And I think it's just for the clinic. So we are going to be looking at that, on the more conceptual of how do we expand this property for the uses that are still it's intended for.
Thanks.
One question, Mark. I don't know. Looking at what the Hot Springs community brought in to maybe put a path around some of that property at the old bathhouse. Have there been any steps taken to get that connection with Rose made and, maybe line out where that path's gonna be so that we could actually get a contract?
There's been a little talk with our office on it, but not a lot. I know Dan reached out, he's with the Hot Springs Community Group. He reached out 2 weeks ago to myself and Tara for further discussion on it. Tara's been out with some family deaths and some sick children. So we still have to, when she gets back in the office, we have to kickstart that back up with Dan so we can get that preliminary drawing, work with Rose, because that is her lease, to get that development done correctly. How the community wants it. But we haven't got to that second phase yet. We just got a initial just discussion plan going and that's it. We want to see it pen on paper type to move forward.
Didn't he present us with a path on a piece of paper?
I had never seen it.
Oh, I think he did. So Tara should have that,
If not, I'll get with Tara on that one to find it.
but that needs to proceed.
Yes. We need to allocate that funding to it.
Yes. Thank you. Go ahead, Tom.
Sorry, maybe one more. So the Holston West Casino Development lease or whatever, where are we at with that? Please refresh me on that.
I've been working on that and it's at legal right now. I'm working on edits with Brian Upton.
Cool, thank you.
And just since the Hot Springs Community Group got brought up, I did talk with the contractor that we were working with to get the contract in place to move forward with the cemetery road for the first part of it. We have had the contract done with them, but now he is kind of worried because it says it was prevailing wages for a public access road or anything like that. So that means it would be Davis-Bacon wages that he would have to pay his crew. He did not budget for that, but like I was talking with Desiree on the business, my business manager was, it does state that on the contract, on the signature pages stuff, that if it's going to be a public access road, it has to be prevailing wages, but since, and if the improvement's over $2,000 under contracts or grants. This is a contract, it does have that on there. It is initialized, but this is not a public access road. This is a tribal member access road because of the cemetery. So that he was kind of worried that that stipulation was going to hold him to pay that and he was going to lose a lot and turn down the contract. So I was trying to explain to him, no, this doesn't have to, but I just wanted to get it clarified that no, this is not a Davis-Bacon prevailing wage job. The contract does unfortunately end shortly. We just did a modification on it to extend him for 1 full year again, just to get the job done. But we have everything in place with him. I have a meeting with him next week on Monday, so we can just explain that whole situation to him so he can break ground and start moving forward with it. So that one's still in the works too. So if you get asked about it, you have a follow-up.
Anything else for Mark or his crew? I think we're good, Mark. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. You guys have a good weekend.
Before you guys
Jennifer.
leave, can we go in executive?
Okay. Out of regular into executive.